What is going on, everybody? It's a Friday morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at. And I am here with Caleb, who's also part of our agency. He is in Nashville having fun. I'm stuck here at home. But we had something happen to us, our own agency, our own business that we really want to make everybody aware of. As you know, we're all about education and helping people. And so this is something that we wanted to jump on right away and to give all of you the education that you need. So, Caleb, thanks for being on. Tell us what's going on, what happened, and what we need to make everyone aware of.
So, I mean, everybody knows that Michael is the garden nerd and the insurance nerd, but a lot of people don't know I'm a pretty big insurance nerd too. So this happened to us, and I mean, we see it as a positive thing when we can show you examples of types of claims that can happen, worst case scenarios, whatever. Like, it's really exciting for us because we can show why you need things, right? So today we want to talk about cyber insurance. So all the businesses out there that we insure, or any other businesses that we connect with, we wanted to point this out and give a great example of why your business needs cyber insurance, needs certain loss control things in place to prevent these types of things from happening. But let's go into it. You want to share your screen, Michael, or you want me to do mine?
Yeah, no, I'll share my screen here and show them the email.
So I'll set it up. There's three agency owners in our company. It's me, Michael, and Jeremy. And so we have a shared email account of accounting@heritageinsurancinc.com. And our bookkeeper is on there as well, Lynette. And so I saw this email come through on, when did it come through? Looks like October 4th. This was Tuesday. And I didn't really think anything of it because Jeremy is always sending emails to Lynette like this that go into accounting, which is our shared inbox. And basically it was, has this been processed? I told Dale to send invoice to you directly and copy me. So that came from quote unquote Jeremy. And you can already see the obvious of this, but when you're looking at email quickly in your outbox, you don't see it like this always. So I'll point that out in a second. But all right, great. I ignore it. And then go to the next one. So Lynette sends something back. Lynette's our bookkeeper here. She says, no, I don't remember getting anything from them. Can you resend the invoice? So obviously the person responds saying, here's another copy of the invoice. Please process ACH today. Again, me thinking this was from Jeremy. There's nothing about that that's weird until I actually opened the email and looked at the attachment that the person sent. And there's like stuff about 1065 review. It's almost like from an accounting firm, which I've never heard of the accounting firm. Since we merged on February 1st, I know most of things that go on, but I'm sure maybe Jeremy would get some information that would come through. Maybe I didn't recognize the vendor. I don't know. But I looked it up and it was like $5,000. And Jeremy and Michael are very open with each other. We bounce stuff off of each other all the time. It's just weird that Jeremy would say, pay $5,000, and I'm not really understanding what it's for, right? So immediately something triggers in my brain, like, I don't know if this is right. So I respond back and say, hey, what is this, Jeremy? Like, well, this is $5,000. What are we paying for here? And he responds back, this is for professional services rendered. And first of all, Jeremy, in all of his life, has never used any phrasing like that, right? So I immediately know this has to be fraud. And so where I look, and I'm actually really good about this, but for whatever reason in this instance, it got along the way and I didn't really look at it. But if you look at Jeremy's email address, that's not his email address. So when an email comes through on Outlook, and I don't know if it's the same on Gmail, it usually just shows the person's name.
Yep.
It doesn't actually show the full email address. And that's, even though you guys are seeing this on your screen, it's not what we saw. We just saw Jeremy Huerta. And so I immediately knew scam, somebody spoofing him. I immediately call Lynette and I say, Lynette, do not pay this invoice. Of course, Lynette is amazing. She's awesome. She probably would have never paid this invoice without getting some sort of verbal confirmation from us, not just through email. because it just doesn't make sense. They're not a vendor for us. Like, she's on top of things. But anyway, I didn't do my due diligence and look at that. So anytime you like think something's fishy, I always hover over the name so that the email address comes up, or you can double click on it and see the actual email address. Anyway, that's what I finally did. Sent that to her, and we kind of stopped the whole process. But they've continued to reach out to me, probably because of my response, right? Somebody actually responded to them, well, me and Lynette. And so they're still saying, hey, we haven't received this payment. What's the status? You can see in that original email, they talk about collections. So, I mean, it just blew my mind because we are so careful. We're in this game. We understand the risks of these types of fraud, right? But, I mean, I guess we didn't get terribly close to paying it, but we got close enough to where I responded. Like, that makes me feel uncomfortable, right?
And that's something to point out, Caleb. A lot of people always think, oh, this is a scam. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to fall for scams. I would never fall for scams. It's obvious. But these people are really good, and they can make it not obvious, even to people that deal with this on a regular basis, like you and me.
Right. And I think the best thing to keep in mind is, like, when you're going through your day, I don't know about you guys, but I get 100 emails a day. I'm not exaggerating.
Yep.
And I'm sure everybody out there is the same in their business, and they probably get more than that. So think about going through your day and you're popping through emails, you're getting stuff done. This email comes through, you say, hey, bookkeeper, pay this. Why hasn't this been paid? Move on to the next thing. I wouldn't be surprised if a high percentage of the people that they do this to actually pay them.
Right. And because they're coming in at a number that's not outrageous to where you may just pay it just to get it off your plate and keep going. If it was like $50,000, there's going to be more questions, but $5,000, okay, pay it and get it off my plate.
Yeah. I mean, it still pains me to pay this money, but I mean, we pay professional services, and a $5,000 bill for an attorney or from an accountant or whatever is not out of the question. Right. So yes, it's very scary. So anyway, Michael and I, being the nerds that we are, we want to jump on and talk about cyber insurance for your company, right? A of all, do you have it? If you don't have a cyber insurance policy, depending on the industry you're in, depending on the revenue you have, it can be very cheap, inexpensive. I hate the word cheap. Sorry. It can be very inexpensive. And there are more and more carriers out there that offer it. The only warning I would throw to you is, especially on cyber policies, every policy is very, very, very different. And so it's really important to talk to somebody like us or an agent that's experienced in cyber so that they can pull out those nuances and point those things out to you, right? So that's number one. Do you have a cyber policy? If you don't, go ahead.
And let me, before you move on to your next point, I always get people who say, cyber policy, I don't need a cyber policy. I don't really conduct a lot of my business online. But as you can see, if you use email in your business, which pretty much every business in 2022 uses email in your business, you need some type of cyber because it can happen.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I'm bad about getting into the lingo. We're bad about that. And cyber is an easy thing for us to say, right? And point out, but it's more than that. It's data breach. It's this wire transfer fraud. It's things that aren't necessarily cyber type things, like the data breach stuff. We can make a whole nother video about that, but it's more than just online stuff. But as you can see in this example, it can be as simple as popping emails back and forth, right?
Yep.
So the second point is know your policy. So this is a specific thing on a cyber policy, wire funds transfer type. Companies may call it different, but it's essentially there to protect you against things like this, right? The third thing I'd point out, and Michael, you're freezing, so I don't know if I am too.
No, you're good.
Okay. Third thing I'd point out is you check the sublimit. So on a lot of the coverages on a cyber policy, a lot of the additional coverages, you'll see that they have sublimits. What sublimits mean is your main policy may say 500,000, a million, whatever, but there may be a sublimit for certain coverages. So on pretty much every cyber policy I see, this particular coverage has a lower sublimit. I looked at one the other day and it was a $100,000 limit. The other thing on that, to that same point, is what's the deductible? So you could have a different deductible for that sublimit. It could be the same deductible as on your regular policy. But in our case, if we had a $25,000 deductible on that sublimit, it would have been under that. We wouldn't have had coverage. So just a couple things to point out. I don't know, just nerding out with Michael today. It's one of those fun things that it's not fun if it happens to you. I get that. But when we can see a real world example to show our commercial clients, how to be careful, we want to point it out. So in this situation, what are some things that a business can do? Buy the coverage. We suggest it. Make sure you know what your coverages are, but there are some things you can do. So just what I showed you, verify the email address. Make sure it's actually coming from that person. Now, a lot of these hackers are really good. They can spoof it and make it look like it came from them. Like if they hacked their email, let's say somebody hacked into our exchange and was on Jeremy's email and sent that same email, right? Then it would have looked really legitimate. But the other thing I would suggest is put in place some dual verification.
Yes.
So that could be a call to the vendor. That could be a verbal would be better. Like we could have a policy and procedure within our agency that says, all right, Lynette, anything you get over $5,000, $2,000, you have to get a verbal authorization from me, Michael, or Jeremy, right? Yep. That's a super easy thing to do that can really reduce these types of fraud situations. So just take those couple things in mind, that even those simple things that you guys can implement today.
And Caleb, I have a video on that talks about the few things that you can do. I'll actually post it down below in the comments. So if you're curious, cool, you can look at that. And I would say if you're a business and you already have a business owner's policy, call your agent, make sure that you have the proper cyber coverage. And Caleb, you know more about this than I do, but on a lot of these business owners policy, there's a cyber endorsement that's added on. And I know many times that doesn't give you the correct coverage. Many times you need to look at a standalone policy.
Absolutely.
So that's something to be aware of as well.
To be totally blunt, a lot of times those coverages are crap. Are they giving you something? Absolutely, right? They're giving you something, but it's very limited. A lot of times it'll have a lower limit of coverage, so you're not getting, enough to cover the worst case scenario. And they may not cover these little things like what we just talked about. Always suggest looking at a standalone policy. You're probably going to pay more for that. Let's say it's $400 to add to your business owner's policy. It may be a $900, $1,000 policy to get a standalone, but the coverage is night and day. We talk about this all the time because we're all about educating our clients, is that it's not about, just having it. It's truly understanding what you have and making sure it's there to cover the worst possible thing that could happen to you and not hurt your company. So
absolutely. Great. So long story short, make sure you have cyber first. And if you don't, call your agent. If you don't have an agent, or if you don't trust them because they didn't give you cyber to begin with, call Caleb, call myself, and we'll make sure we help you and get you covered how you need to be covered. So
and the other thing I've already talked about, that emphasizing the comparison of policies. Work with an agent that can show you 4 policies and show that comparison. So again, it's not about always buying the best. It's about understanding what you are buying, what is in it and what is not in it. So make sure you're seeing those comparisons.
Absolutely. Awesome. And if you get any emails like this, send them over to Caleb and I, because we love to look at them and nerd out over them. So,
and just so you know, I'm not just having fun in Nashville. I am working at a insurance conference this week, IAOA, a great group that Michael and I and Jeremy actually met at. So this is the conference that Michael and Jeremy and I met at.
Yes.
Well, we might have met at a different one, but anyway, it was a conference like this. We came together, created a great friendship, and eventually now, we're business partners. So these events are great for us to keep learning and pushing ourselves, and it just makes us want to educate and make sure our clients, are served well.
Absolutely. Always trying to get better to help our clients. Love it. I just wish I was there. I'm jealous.
Yeah, I know. We miss you.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining.